All right. Welcome to the second episode of Beloved Soulpreneurs, Women Living Their Soul's Purpose and Power, a podcast about inspired and inspiring women who are bravely letting their soul lead in their life and their business, who courageously heal what needs to be healed, let go of what needs to be let go of, and continue to step into their soul's purpose and power, living the light of their love, learning and leading with their hearts, aligning with their Dharma and the truth of a simpler and more loving way to be and to live. So I'm really excited to kick off the second season today with my good friend Leila. Leila, welcome. Thank you for coming on today.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yeah, this is a really lovely kind of loop back around as well, because we had Leila on for the first season, maybe even one of the first episodes, and so it feels really wonderful to see where we're at. I think a year on, maybe a little bit more than a year on. So I just want to do a little short introduction um, um, for our guests about Leila. Leila has so many gifts, and among them, she's a plant-based chef. I want to say artist as well, because I love the food you curate and create. It's so bright and beautiful. So I feel like there's like an artistry in that as well. She's a retreat caterer, a natural remedy maker, an energy healer, cold water lover, plant mama, embodiment practitioner and coach, compassionate space holder, and all-round beautiful soul. If you listen to our first episode last year, you will have heard that we met back in 2019 during our first Vipassana retreat. So nothing like a social occasion of like 100 hours of silence. And we got chatting when we came out, and there's been some really interesting and synchronistic parallels in our journeys. And last but not least, it's also, oh, hello little dog that's coming down the stairs. That's very cute, just resting his head in the corner of the video. Yeah, last but not least, you led me into Magnificent Being of Light Club, and we've been journeying there together for a year and a half now. And so I feel like just that has been such a beautiful place that our connection has deepened on a soul level as well. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you. That was a lovely welcome. Also, I feel like you explain what I do so much better than I can. When people ask me what I do, I'm like, good question.
Just keep that in your pocket now.
Yeah,
There
I'm
you
gonna do. I'm gonna print
go.
it off the script. I'm gonna write it down. That'll be me. Set. Thank you.
On the back of the business card. Nice. So I know we had a few ideas that popped in before this call, and especially because I know we touch base with some parts of our journeys as we go along. I'm really excited about this conversation, and I wanted to come in front and center with a stage that I know we've both been journeying with in different ways over this year. And I'm sure many of our guests have as well. I know many of my clients have, and different communities I've been in. 2022, if you're listening to this, maybe next year is where we're at. It's the 8th of September today. And it's this idea of the chrysalis stage, the part in our transformational journey. And I don't think it's something that we go through just once either. At least I've been here more than once for sure. And I'm sure it won't be the last. And it's this stage. I love the acronym or the idea of the caterpillar going into his chrysalis and turning to goo before he is remade into this butterfly. And so that definitely can feel like that sometimes. And I suppose let's open this up with, what has that looked like for you? We've had some interesting months this year. What does it look like for you? And can you talk a little bit about the chrysalis stage as you've experienced
Really gooey.
it? So gooey.
Yeah. Um, it's been a fun ride. Um, no, it's been really hard. It's been really, really challenging. Um, but so needed. I've had so many so many realizations, so much learning has come from this phase. And, you know, most recently with our conversations that we've had before this call about the importance of this stage. And yeah, it's kind of the way it started for me really was after a major life event, and there was just this natural decline of energy. And I think one of the things that has helped me to really be receptive to this this phase is just really following my design, my human design, which I know that we'll get into a little bit later on, so I won't go into that now, but just that knowing of, you know, right timing for everything, and just understanding that, you know, I don't quite have much to give right now, because the energy that it's taking for me to heal and move through these experiences that I've been through, um, it's just taking everything for me to do that. And so it's that natural knowing of, okay, I need to sort of pull back a little bit here. You know, stopped working with people one on one, and just really just gave myself the permission to really rest into this really uncomfortable time of life that it was, you know, and just and just it was, there was a lot of work I had to do on acceptance, accepting where I was at and allowing it to be okay. And yeah, giving myself that permission didn't just happen once. I had to keep giving myself that permission and keep reminding myself that it's okay. Like, this is where I'm at the moment, and that's okay. And this is how it is, and that's okay. And this piece right here that you're going through is absolutely vital and necessary for moving forward and growing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for explaining that so clearly and with such self-compassion as well. I think one thing that really stood out for me is this recognition that it's a phase. It's a vital, I think you used the word vital there, a vital stage of your journey. And to give yourself permission for that, I think that can be so challenging just in and of itself. Giving yourself permission. You know, we're in a world that is, it's, you know, the dominant, for me, what I noticed, the dominant kind of rhetoric is growth, expansion, you know, all of this kind of yang energy, this outward energy, and that has a place for sure. But sometimes actually that growth is happening internally. I always think of it like the iceberg, you know, that we always just see the tip of the iceberg, but what's happening underneath is all the huge amount that then, you know, the outward success as a result of all that inner transformation. And so can we give ourselves permission when we're doing the unseen work? There's nothing in inverted commas to show for it yet, you know, but we have a knowingness, we have a felt sense. And I love that you touched on some of the markers of how do we know that. So this, first of all, this natural decline of your energy. You were like, hey, look, I can't give what I don't have. So I'm going to just take a step back because I need that for me, that energy. Even if at the start you didn't understand perhaps even what was going on with that energy, just understanding that all of it was being used up somehow and honoring that, I think is just so beautiful. And really comes back to this piece of listening to ourselves and our body. Our bodies are always guiding us. What is your energy? Where's your energy at? You know, are you listening to that? Yeah, I want to say on top of that, were there any other kind of markers or intuitive hunches or things that allowed you to recognize this phase for what it was, that would help others that feel like they're maybe feeling stuck, but actually it's a call to go inward?
Well, yeah, nothing was happening. Like, nothing was happening for me work-wise anyway.
Mm.
You know, things weren't I wasn't drawing in opportunities like I normally do,
Mm.
and things were still and quiet, and it kind of helped that it was winter.
Mm.
Like that did definitely help. Um, but again, like with what you were saying, you know, with society and how we're conditioned to do and go, it was really hard to settle into that winter. It was really hard to settle into the acceptance of, and to, you know, allow myself that time and space. And, you know, I did spend a fair bit of time like resisting it and avoiding doing the work and avoiding feeling what I needed to feel. Like, I think naturally most of us will go through that little bit of resistance, and, you know, because we just know how how hard it's going to be and how uncomfortable it's going to be. But yeah, part of the magic of this phase is, yeah, having the courage to step into that fully. So just, yeah, taking note of what's going on in your environment, or what's not going on in your environment, and how you're feeling. And yeah, just that the energy piece was the biggest one, just not having the energy to do anything, naturally needing to rest more
Mm.
to recover. So rest, I just needed to rest. And I know for many people out there, and possibly many people watching this or listening to this, it's probably one of the hardest things for most people to do, right? Is to actually allow yourself the permission to rest.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't. So yeah, those were the main things really. It was the energy, the needing to rest, and just seeing that there was not really much opportunity for anything else other than what I knew that I needed to do happening at that time.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. I hear you on the rest. We have so many stories attached to it, don't we? You know, like that it's just, it's interesting once we can catch them, like it's lazy, or, you know, if we're not doing anything, then, you know, are we adding value? There's so many stories. And what you were saying about the resistance, I can definitely relate to. And I also feel like it's not a linear thing. It's not like, oh, cool, I'm over the resistance, let's settle into feeling all my feels, you know, 100%. Or at least for me, I find like, I don't know if this is true for you. There might be some courageous days and to move through some stuff. And then there might be a couple of days where you're like, no, I'm going to watch Netflix and I'm going to eat my emotions because I'm tired of feeling them, and I'm going to take a break from this, you know? And just that real human reality of it, that it is hard, and really honoring ourselves in both the human and the spiritual sides of moving through some of those denser feelings that are coming up to be shifted.
And there's going to have to be that continuous reminder of that honoring of what you were just
Mm.
saying, because one of the things that I would say was the most challenging part over all of it was actually the length of time.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, you know, at one point I was like, this is dragging now. Like, like I am over this. Like, surely I have done enough.
Yeah, right.
Surely I have felt all of my feelings. Surely I have paid off any karmic residue. I mean, you do get to that point, and I got to that point more than once,
Yeah.
more than twice. I got to that point so many times where I was like, done, like
Yes.
seriously. And it was just having to pull myself back into that place of acceptance, of accepting where we are in that moment, accepting where I was in that moment. Um, and I guess drawing on a lot of what we learned at Vipassana, you know, that just being a like having that equanimity to just know that, you know, this is this is all right.
Yeah.
It might not feel okay, but this is
I
all
might not
right.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might not want it, but here it is, and here we are, and all is well, really. My needs are getting met. They're always going to be met. I can find some space to rest into this, to relax into this and find the ease. Yeah.
if I could give an example of the perfect meme,
Yes.
describe what we were just talking about, and you may know it, you may not. Hopefully, you know it. Otherwise, this will be a bit. So there's a
No
meme
pressure.
of a picture of a dog sat in a room just with flames all around him. The house is on fire, and there's a little a little speech bubble, and it's just him, just with like a really funny smile, and it just says, "This is fine." But you can tell on his face that it's just like, I love it because it is just so perfect for how I was feeling for a lot of that phase. Like, I just feel like I am goo. I am in a house of flames. Everything's burning down around me, but this is fine.
It's all good. That's no problem. I mean, it's not far off what's happening, right? Like fire of purification, all your attachments, identities, like that is kind of what is happening.
The
Yeah.
tower, if we're going to put a tarot
Yeah.
card on this, it's probably the tower.
Yeah. Everyone's favorite, followed by death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know if you found, but definitely something, definitely something I've found as well is like almost like just giving yourself the validation of like when you've got into that space of being like, okay, I'm accepting this, it's going to continue for as long as it needs to continue. I'm choosing to trust, and you've got yourself into that place that is likely not to make sense to anyone else, you know? So times when I've definitely had a few conversations where people are like, how are things? And you know, like it's that dog moment, like everything is fucking burning down, but you're like, okay, well, I am where I am. I can't do anything. So there's like this resolute, I've had a few conversations where I'm like, I mean, it's serving a purpose. I'm fine. It's all good. But you feel like you want to be able to like explain your way out of it. And you
Mm.
can't, you know, it's not. And a lot of people are not going to understand where you're at, I think. And so is that something you experienced at all? And if so, how did you navigate that?
I mean, sort of. I feel like I projected a bit of that onto stuff because I mean, in re in reality, you know, pretty much everyone I have around me like gets it,
Mm,
get it. They've been through it, they're going through it, you know. So I do actually feel like really blessed to be in that situation where actually I feel pretty understood. I felt pretty understood and held through the process. I was so supported. So it didn't feel too much like I had to, you know, kind of explain too much of, yeah, it didn't feel like too much of a challenge for me in that sense.
cool. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And within that, what helped you trust the process? Was there anything, was it that support and feedback from others? Was it just in a knowing, a trust of intuition? What was it that supported your trust?
It was a real mixture of things, honestly, because there would be some things, some days that would really, really support and help guide me back to that place of trust. And then other times where that thing that worked that day isn't working today, you
Yeah.
know? So then it's like, okay, well, what next? But yeah, definitely the support, definitely like my support network was always something that was super helpful. Um, and you know, you get different things from different people at different times, don't you? Like people will say, certain people will say exactly what you need to hear on in that moment. Um, I'm really lucky that I live by the sea, because the water, going in the water regularly,
Yeah.
that's the thing that always just brings me back to that place of trust. Um, Probably one of my most potent forms of medicine, for sure, especially when it's cold. Um, and yeah, just I guess just really, really working hard on my frame of mind. You know, I definitely find like of all of the kind of different bodies that we have, the physical body, the emotional body, all of that. The mental one is the one that I struggle with the most.
Yeah.
So there was really a lot of work that I was needing to do to just bring myself back mentally to that place, and just not letting the old stories and the old narratives and the ego take me further away from that place that I needed to be. So there was a lot of like mental stuff that I needed to do, and did a lot of journaling and a lot of tapping as well. I love tapping, a bit of EFT.
Yeah.
Found that really helpful.
Nice. Would you say that's the thing that helped you the most interrupt those stories? Could you maybe speak to, actually, as an example, like how, when those stories kicks in, from the point of like catching it, how would you catch it, and then how would you shift it?
Well, quite a lot of the time I would this is a process for me sometimes. So sometimes I'll catch it straight away. I'll just notice it in my mind, and I'll just instantly replace it with something more positive to just help get me back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes I would find myself in that. I wouldn't catch it straight away, and I'll be in it for a while. And sometimes I might notice that I'm in it. Sometimes I need to be in it a while, just so I can really understand how stupid it is.
Yeah. And like the pull it has, you almost like have to go into the energy of it to be like, wait, this feels rubbish.
Yeah.
That's probably not the truth then, you know? Like,
Yeah, sometimes it takes that for me. Sometimes it
yeah.
takes me to be in that energy, to really, after a while, after an hour or two, be like, oh, I don't want to feel, I don't want to, no,
Yeah.
no, uh-uh. And then I can start working on how to change that. And I really enjoy the EFT for that, because it really helps to bring that unconscious stuff to the surface first, or the more negative stuff to the surface first, and then just replacing it and really drilling it in to those meridian points, what it is that you really want to be feeling and thinking moving forward. So powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And for anyone that is new to EFT, emotional freedom technique, is a process where you tap on certain meridian points. You can Google it, you'll see the map of it. And typically there's many scripts out there. There's a whole art and science to this, but the typical kind of process, as I understand it and I use it, is when you're feeling something negative in your body, especially if it's something that feels, challenging to go into, let's say, that's going into those heavier emotions, guilt, shame, fear, whatever, you can start to tap on it. And what it does is it enables the body to feel safer, so you can go deeper into those emotions, even get to the root of them, release them through the nervous system, and then start to recode that with something positive. And yeah, it's a really powerful and really simple technique. That's what I love about it. It's so simple in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take too long. You don't have to
Yeah.
commit like hours to it. You can simply do it for a couple of minutes and feel a shift.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice in that it can be, for those of you who have like quite a left brain, it's quite quantitative. You can be like, okay, I'm feeling this intensity of whatever the emotion is, like at the start, like a 9 out of 10, a few rounds, and you're like, wow, that's come down to a 4 or 5, so it's really easy to see the results fast. Okay, EFT journaling, building that awareness of catching yourself when you can either see the stories or you can feel the energy of some of those stories that are a little bit subtler or sneakier. I know we chatted before we came onto the podcast today that you feel like you're coming up and out of this stage. And I know maybe whoop, 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 yeah, into spring, ready for winter. The irony is not lost. And maybe it's too soon, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. And if nothing's coming, you can be like, ask me next time we have a chat. But what shifts have you seen so far as a result of having given yourself this time and honored this process of the chrysalis stage?
Yeah, so I've been through a couple of different phases with it. So like, even though I kind of entered this stage, like, yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah.
And was really deep in it over winter, and then coming into spring, I was still in it, but the energy started moving a little bit, and
Mm.
I started working again, not one on one, but I started catering retreats again, and that was really fantastic because that gave me this sense of hope, whilst I was still very much in the process that I was in, and there was still a lot of work for me to do. I was being thrown these opportunities that were allowing me to exercise some of my creativity and passion for holding space and, working with food and supporting people's journey, but just in a different way that I have been doing. So as I've gone through spring and summer, I've been very, very much still in this kind of chrysalis phase with sort of brief moments of being out there again, sort of at a monthly retreat. Um, but where I'm feeling even more change happening now is that, yeah, my energy is different. Before, I was talking about how uncomfortable it was when, you'd get to the point where you're like, this is dragging now, it's fine, in a burning building vibe. And, where I was able to still bring myself to that place of trust and be okay with it, I still wasn't that happy. I didn't have that spark and that joy that I normally have. And that's important for someone like me who's a generator. And if you know about
Right.
human design, it's really important. And I really felt like I was lacking that because I was so aware of being in this place in between. I'm not the person I used to be. I'm not yet the
But who
person,
am I? Yeah.
but and so it was like this really, really weird place to be in. I might be going off a little bit of on a tangent here, but there's this piece that I really want to speak to. Once I realized, which was probably about maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer, I met with a really good friend and had a big chat about all of this. And so many shifts happened after that conversation. And I realized that, you know, there's a part of me that hasn't yet grieved the person that I was. Firstly, because I didn't know I needed to. I've been doing so much of the other work of feeling and working through everything that had come up for me as a result of what put me in this phase.
Yeah.
But not much work had been done on really grieving that old version of me. And then also being so focused on wanting to be at the new, the butterfly phase, that I'd completely taken myself out of the now
Yeah.
and not giving myself any love or compassion for the version of me that exists now in this moment.
Yeah.
Because I'm in this space in between, fluttering between the past and the future. And yes, there is moments of me bringing myself into the now with the trust piece of I'm where I need to be, but no acknowledgement had been given to the fact that I'm not loving on myself right now in this place where I'm at right now. And
Yeah.
that was a big turning point.
Yeah.
And as soon as I realized that and I started, really, really letting go that old version of me and just, feeling the grief of that and just letting go of any expectation of the future version of me, because you know what, that doesn't matter because that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
And just placing that my focus and intention and compassion on me now, everything started to shift.
Yeah.
My energy started coming back. I started feeling excited again. I started feeling that joy. I started seeing new opportunities coming in. I started feeling more like myself in a way, and it started to feel really good. So that was, in a very long-winded answered way, that was one of the main things that helped me to realize that, helped me, you know, those one of the shifts that were happening, basically, you know, just feeling different within myself, feeling that happiness again, feeling that joy come back. And yes, you can cultivate joy in any given moment, but this was different. This was like, it's different when you're in this chrysalis phase.
Yeah.
It's like you can cultivate moments of joy throughout the day, but there's this constant feeling of something missing, because it's really weird and uncomfortable and strange to be in a place where you don't recognize yourself as much, because you've just shed that old version of you. So it's kind of like, yeah. Did I
Yeah,
answer you?
yeah, that was so powerful. Yeah, you did. You absolutely did. And I really felt it in my heart when you said, I hadn't brought any compassion into the me in the now, this goo version of me kind of thing. And that's huge. That is so huge. And for anyone that is understands the stage, because they're in it, they've been in it, they're just entering into it. I mean, I can feel that in my heart so much, because it requires it to be like such an untethered and pure love, I think, because there's no kind of anchor points or identity points at that point, at that, you know, like you said, all of the things that made you you, that you could hold on to, those were dissolved or were dissolving. You had to let them go. And yet you couldn't be pulled into the future. It hadn't arrived yet. So just to love you without any of those identity crutches, hooks, anchors, there's something really profound about that and really pure about that. And it's also, it kind of transcends the mind, right? Because it's like, I can love myself and not know. I don't need to know to love myself.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, if we're to, yeah, if anyone listening to this has been through this or is going through this, that's probably one of the biggest things to take note of, I think. This was like, this was a turning point. This was a revelation for me. It was like, whoa. And it might sound so simple, but you know, when you don't feel like you know who you are, because you've shed your skin and you're in a completely new place. It's uncomfortable and it's scary, and you do end up holding on to the old version of you because you've known it for so long. But there's no transformation and growth in holding on. And you know, that is potentially one of the reasons that my chrysalis phase dragged on as long as it did. I needed it. I'm not saying that, you know, if I'd have done this, it would have been shorter. No, it was perfect and it needed to be as long as it needed to be. But I know that, you know, after having this revelation, I really understood that, you know, that holding on to that part of me wasn't allowing me to love me now. And that's really the key, isn't it? The key ingredient to being able to move forward in new ways and with that love and joy in your heart that is the essence of you, you know?
And I love this, that you said that joy kind of naturally started to come back, that energy naturally started to come back, and some of these true qualities of our essence, right? Of like, I don't know, but I'm kind of excited in the not knowing. I'm kind of curious, and you know, it opens up space for all of those things to like naturally kind of. I'm seeing it like flowers kind of growing up again. You know, it like gives them space to begin to come up and through and to bring that joy back. And yeah, really honoring that fear is going to be part of the process. It is. And I don't know about you, but for me, I've certainly seen in myself times when I've cycled back to, you know, I've let go for a bit, and then I've gone back and gone, oh no, but I think I'm out of it, and now I'll clutch back onto what I do know, and then caught that and been like, oh no, that's just because there was a bit too much fear again to be in this space in between, you know. So honoring that it's a process, and sometimes those big shifts can happen, and sometimes they happen in little shifts as well. Beautiful. Thank you. All right. So moving on to, I know we touched on it briefly, the power of embodiment. And I know you started talking a little bit about cold water immersion for you. What, for anyone that's listening that maybe is new to embodiment, even the word embodiment. What does embodiment mean to you?
Embodiment means to me feeling. It means connection. It means integrating. It means integrating your reality with this physical form, and yeah, really just, it means to me connection. It means to me connection, connection with my heart, with my body, and with everything that I feel, with my emotions. It's that kind of brings it all together.
Beautiful. Thank you. Coming into the body and connecting to what is there, to the heart, to the emotional body, even to the mental body. And what are your own embodiment practices? What's your kind of main toolkit that you love?
Well, I'll say it again. I've already said it. Cold water is probably my number one embodiment practice, because it's probably one of the fastest forms of medicine that I've ever experienced, in terms of it brings you straight into your body.
Yeah.
There's no
Right? Like, bam.
no space for
No
resistance.
messing around, is
There's
there?
no messing around. And just, yeah, I have to shout out a big shout out to my friend Lisa Shabbos, who took me into the cold water for the first time. I think it was February 2020, no, February 2021. So it was only like a year and a half ago. And
Coldest month of the year to begin as well.
yeah.
Just to, yeah.
I'm so grateful for her guiding me into that practice that has continued to be really powerful for me, in just bringing me back to myself every single time, even if I don't go down to the sea and I just have a cold shower, it does the same thing. So that's probably number one for me. And then my all-time favorite after that is honestly just getting on the mat and just moving intuitively. Like, where am I feeling some stiffness, or where am I feeling something? Can I move into that? Can I breathe into that? How can I move into that? Which way do I move into that? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Not what does it look like, what does it feel like? And just putting a bit of music on, or sometimes I don't put music on, and I just get on the mat and I just move and just breathing whilst moving. Like, those two things together are just like gold.
Yeah.
They're absolute magic, syncing the breath in with the movement, and just really honoring that time and space to like be able to connect and understand like that mind body connection, really, really live that, and really understand how everything is stored in our body, and we have to go there to find answers, and we have to go there to find peace. So yeah, movement and breath, cold water, all of them.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes. I really hear you on the movement with the breath and that kind of union that happens. And also, it gets to be like this almost inquiry. It can start to soften when there's like a curiosity in that intuitive movement, like everything you said there, it was all of these questions. How does it feel? How do I move into it? What does it need? How, and suddenly we get to be the observer, and there's all of this information, and it takes it out, for me at least, it takes me out of this emotion is hard and heavy or bad or wrong, or the duality of it, or this one feels good and is pleasurable. And instead we kind of can delve into the nuances of it all. And there can even be a beauty in that. Like, we can go into, it can be a physical sensation that's really tight, it can be emotional heaviness. But when we go into it, that curiosity, it's amazing what can be found within it. Grief can have beauty in it, or heaviness can sometimes have a release in it. And we start to feel the way that it can move and change. And there's a dynamic kind of just magic to it.
It is magic. And I would definitely say, for anyone that's kind of new to these kinds of practices, that it really helps to have support to begin with. When I first started really getting into my body, I had support from an old friend of mine, also called Amy, who was a yoga teacher at the time and really taught me how to get into my body and really taught me how to use my breath to stick with the discomfort that came up in certain poses, in certain positions, and help to guide me deeper into certain pains or certain discomforts that would allow the kind of release that gave me a sense of lightness and freedom. So for me, having that support at very early on in my journey was really helpful because, when we're starting out, I feel like, well, maybe it's not the case for everyone, but for me, if I was starting out without that support, there would only be so far I could go because the resistance would feel stronger to me, and I just wouldn't go there. There were certain places that I wouldn't go, and so the support was really good. So even if that's just going to a yoga class or finding someone that can support you through some movement, is always a good shout.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think that's really important. And almost for me, there were certain principles that I learned in some of those classes that really helped me understand what felt safe to me, where my edge was, where I was in a space of kindness and ahimsa in yoga, and where there was maybe old programs of pushing or not being kind to myself or trying to get through it for the sake of getting through it. So some of those principles can be really, really helpful. And some of those are mental principles, some of them are physical principles. How do I breathe into something? If you haven't done that before, how the notion of directing your breath into a part of the body can be really new, and be a really novel experience. So yeah, finding a teacher or someone that you resonate with, you feel safe with. And there's so many modalities, there's so many, from somatic to release, to body workers, to yin yoga teachers, to restorative yoga, yoga nidra. There's many different practices, but I think one thing I would say is find that person that just kind of intuitively feel some resonance with, and whether it's one-on-one or just in classes, or even just have a chat to them. Hey, I've just started exploring, just being with my body, being in movement with myself and feeling what's coming up. Do you have any words of wisdom? Is there anything else that you'd say on that that's been helpful?
No, I think you said it really. It was feeling safe with someone is extremely important because you're going to places that may not have felt safe in the past, with certain parts of your body. And so it can be a really vulnerable feeling to kind of do that work. And it can feel very strange to move in ways that you might not have moved before, or even just move. Some people, I found it uncomfortable, before. I'd never really moved in those ways or that much before. I never really had that conscious exploration of my body before. So it was big, Every yoga class I went to, I cried. Every, one-on-one session I'd have, I cried. And it was a whole new vulnerable place for me, but you learn to love crying. So
yeah, right. It's so true.
you're like, yes.
This is part of the process, I think, until you start this journey of turning inward. You must just sound mental, where you're just like, it's just so satisfying, like the release. What do you do as a self-healer? I just cry, do a lot of crying, moving and crying. But there's an alchemy in it, and I think there's what crazy power is that there is energy that's stored as emotion in your body. That energy, once it becomes in motion again and we release it, it turns into something physical. Tears, that is kind of mind-blowing to me. I think that's super cool.
It is.
I'm like, oh, something's moved. If there's tears, something has moved.
Yeah, and it just feels like a celebration. It's like, yes, like I did this. I'm committed. I'm crying it out, and I'm proud of myself,
Yeah. Tears or laughter or both together.
I've had great.
I love it. Beautiful. So embodiment practices, and really what we're talking about here as well, because I don't want to just kind of gloss over it, is it is trauma work. You know, these are energies that are stuck in the body, that have been separated from love, some things that have been locked in, and there's a whole body of work out there of somatic practices and trauma. What was that?
Just a fly.
Nice.
Enjoyed this.
So yeah, there's definitely a whole library of really simple trauma kind of somatic practices that you can find as well. Some you might even find that you do intuitively, like simple things like giving yourself a hug, or like holding your own hand, or like soft materials if it's kinesthetic, soothing sounds if it's more auditory, like visual things, like just for beginning that exploration of like what feels good to you, what's soothing to you, and that building that into those movement or embodiment practices, I think can be such a beautiful thing and such an exploration as well. And I know that you love to work with essential oils and flower essences, and there's been aspects for you. Is there anything else that you really love to work with, that you want to talk to before we move on?
I do think that you touched on some of my favorite tools just now, with the essential oils and the flower essences. They've been huge allies. Um, has there been anything else? Just having a think. I think you said the main ones really,
Nice.
and just yeah, just using those little tools from nature that
Yeah,
really just help you, you know, because a certain essential oil will feel like that hug, especially if you don't feel comfortable enough to do that yet. It can
yes,
easily, because sometimes that feels uncomfortable for people to do.
yeah,
Like, this feels weird. No, this doesn't feel, you know, especially if someone's just starting off on their journey and they've, you know, it might feel really uncomfortable to receive that.
yeah.
But an essential oil can help you jump timelines, and it can help you feel like you're getting that hug that you can't quite give to yourself yet, so it can really help you to develop that. But yeah.
There's a whole other rabbit hole that we could do. Have a conversations on flower essences and essentials and colors. I feel like colors as well, and textures of things. So anyhow, yes, many things to explore, and allow yourself to be led. You know, your intuition will guide you.
Definitely.
So I'm going to move on because I'm aware of time, and I want to move on to this notion of self-inquiry. And I know we touched upon it in terms of awareness and watching your thoughts and the stories that come up. And you also touched upon human design really briefly. We've both started to explore human design much more deeply this year, courtesy of wonderful friend and mentor Lisa Sandine, who has a company Align Within. I'd love you to speak to your human design and how it has helped empower you and helped you on your journey, and this stage in particular.
Where to begin? Human design, absolute game changer.
Right.
I think I think mainly it's just helped to show me like how best to live my life in the decisions that I make and the way that I make decisions. You know, we were talking earlier at the start of this call um about knowing when you need to start accepting where you're at in this phase, this chrysalis phase, and just the acceptance piece around that and the need to rest. And, you know, I've learned a lot of that because of human design, just knowing how to read that energy and understanding when, you know, my root is pulsing off, or understanding that I have to wait for right timing to embark on stuff, or even just knowing that, you know, I have to wait to respond to something before I'm not an initiator
That's so huge, that one.
as a turn inspiration in form. Yeah, and it's huge. And anchor in that trust of like, okay, well, if nothing is here for me place and I need to rest. And just having that extra piece that extra piece made it so much easier for me to accept where I was at in that whole phase. And if I didn't have that, I don't know, I think there would have been a hell of a lot more resistance. I think it would have been a lot harder not knowing and understanding my design, not knowing that it's okay for me to not need to respond to. I can't go out and initiate, and furthermore, I don't have the energy to initiate anything, even if I wanted to. So just for that piece alone, human design like really changed the game for me, helped me to really appreciate my energy, understand how to work with it, and know how to tune in to my gut to make decisions. So game changer.
Yeah. The need, like the respond thing is just so huge. It just lifts this massive weight, doesn't it? Of, oh right, I'm not meant to be making all this happen. Like the universe will be bringing me what's right for me, and in the meantime I can actually relax and do what feels good for me and know that that's what's right for me. Like that is just so huge. It's so against the dominant narrative out there.
Exactly. Like I've spent my whole life initiating. I've
Me
been
too.
going out there like I'm a manifester and just doing all this stuff. And then when you understand, and by the way, anyone listening who doesn't understand about design, like you may be an initiator. It may not resonate what we're saying. It depends on your design. There's 5 different design types. But yeah, just looking back as well and just seeing my life in certain situations that didn't work out or the way that things happened. And I'm like, go figure.
Yes,
That's
right.
why.
Yeah.
Because I was doing it all wrong.
I think the biggest thing about it is it gets to be so much easier
Yeah.
when you live according to your design,
Yeah.
according to your profile and your type and your inner authority. Suddenly you know what's right for you in terms of decisions, how to make those decisions. And really, it's helping you get into the flow of life, you
It's
know?
just, it's, I'm still amazed by it every single day. And I, yeah, I actually had a human design reading last night, and I'm just like, I'm currently assimilating all the information. Just like, whoa.
Yeah. It's like Aladdin's cave. Honestly, it is, because each thing you learn is like another little incredible gift to yourself about like how you can operate in a way that's like just more calibrated to your truth.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle. It's like life's a puzzle, and human design, your human design chart contains all the pieces. And once you start
Love
learning
that.
about them, you can start putting the pieces back in. And then life just flows. The alignment comes. Each new piece that comes back in that you live by, bam, there's some more alignment, some more opportunities, some more joy, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And it just keeps going like that. It's like beautiful blueprint jigsaw puzzle. And
Mhm.
it's just like it's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. All the love and all the respect for human design. And thank you. Shout out to Lisa massively for that.
Yeah.
And I do want to say as well, it takes some time to reprogram yourself on it
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
because I definitely would say like I know now a lot of about my design cognitively, but I'm still learning how to embody it and to live according to it. It's some of it's quite subtle stuff, so it
Ab-
gets to be a whole journey.
Absolutely. It definitely doesn't just happen overnight. There were so many times during this whole fit phase over this last year where I had to keep bringing myself back to that. There was this really funny moment, and I'll just be really brief with it because I'm aware of the time, but there was this really funny moment where I was like, I'm really just bored of this now. I spoke about this earlier, and I'm fed up and I'm bored and I want to be doing stuff and I want, I'm bored, and I had this amazing realization that I'm not bored. I'm not like there's nothing wrong with me. I just have like a really, really, really amazing nervous system right now because I've been resting and I've been doing all this work, and I'm so used to chaos because my nervous system is normally shot to pieces from all the stress, but I've spent so much time in rest that actually, and it was mind blowing. It was like you're not bored. You've just got you're just your nervous system's sorted. And you're not used to that. You spent your whole life in dysregulation. Like,
But you're
you are
finally at a sweet,
yeah.
you're finally at a sweet spot. Like all is chill. Fuck, this
Yeah.
is boring.
It was so funny. And then I was like, oh, okay, all right. All right, what shall I do today then?
That's huge though, and I think you actually touch on something that is massive for people, that
Mm,
vast majority of people, you know, we all have some level of trauma, and majority of us do not spend our time in a regulated, grounded state. And so when we do start to come back to that state, it can feel boring, it can feel like something's missing or we're missing out on it. And that's often when some of the old addictions will come up as well, addictions to drama, addictions to stress, and just noticing, like, am I creating something here because that feels more safe, normal, known than
mm.
this relaxed, regulated, chilled state.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for touching on that. Okay, coming on to maybe my favorite bit of this podcast. I don't know though, we'll see how it goes, which is the topic of spiritual community. And I can't have a chat with you and not touch on Embol, because it's been such a huge part of this last year for me. And you're such a huge part of that as well. I know it's you know, a baby that you've kind of been birthing with Jacqueline. And for me, it's given me such a safe space to really understand my life through the lens of being a spiritual being, having a human experience. It's given that permission, like you say, when you're speaking about being in this chrysalis phase, and actually it was okay because you had the support around you that recognized what it was, with the awareness of this spiritual journey, and the space for satsang as well, to kind of discuss topics and energies and spiritual ideas in a way that's really open and outside the norm of society, I think. And so my big question to you is, what is Embol for you, or to you?
Well, Embol, for anyone watching, stands for the Magnificent Being of Light Club. And it means to me family.
Mm.
It's just this beautiful spiritual home where we gather every week and just share and connect and learn and be. And so it really just means to me family, because it has been such a huge part of my life. And some of this, you know, over the last year and a half that we've sort of been going, it's held me through so much shit that I've been going through, that it's really been an anchor for me.
Yeah.
It's really been an anchor for me, as a member, as someone that, you know, helps hold the space and helps Jacqueline with that. It, you know, on all levels, like being in the energy of that has just been another game changer for me. It's
Mm.
just having that place where you feel safe and everyone understands you. It's just priceless, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you for that. And I really encourage, for anyone out there that's listening, if you find yourself craving that as you're starting to maybe go through that awakening journey — I have two minds about how I feel about that word, but you know, you're going through this development, these shifts, the shit that life throws at you, and you're finding that you're craving people that can meet you where you're at, that can see and understand you, a safe space where you can speak more openly about things that you're beginning to see or understand, then ask the universe for it, put it out there, and it will come to you. I remember when Leila just mentioned it on the off chance, she was just like, yeah, I'm sort of part of this thing, Magnificent Being a Light Club. And I went, that sounds awesome. And it was just like something in me that was like, yes, 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 yes. And then I joined in the first call. I think I cried the whole way through and was like, I feel like I've just come home.
Amazing.
So, you know, allow yourself to be led towards that spiritual family, your soul family. Know that it's out there for you, even if there's a gap right now between those that you're surrounded by that might not be understanding you.
Mm-hmm.
Know that it's okay to create space to allow in the new, of those that are on this kind of, whatever you want to call it, spiritual path, growth trajectory, whatever it is to you, madness, and just trust that it will come, I promise. All right, so slowly running out of time, I'm going to move on to the question of work in the world. I know that you follow your soul in your kind of purpose and passion and what you share, and I don't want to delve into this too deeply. I think I just want to touch on one question, which is, what are the main values by which you operate with in terms of the work that you do in the world?
Authenticity. So just being truly authentic in myself, because that allows me to lead the way for others to be authentic to themselves in the way that they show up in the world, and really inspires positive connection. I think when you're authentic, you can really connect with other authentic beings that really align with you. So yeah, in the work that I bring forward, authenticity is key, as well as integrity, and just really, yeah, walking the talk, and just really making sure that I am embodying the work and the talk that I talk, because how can I really serve if I am not serving myself first, in ways that are going to be beneficial to not just myself but the collective too. So and then love, just being, just immersing in that love and joy. So love, joy, integrity, authenticity. I feel like there's one more. No, that's it. Those are my main values.
Beautiful. Thank you. Love, joy, authenticity, integrity. Super powerful. So much fun as well. And it's moving from this old way of being, right? Of where there wasn't integrity, of do as I say, not as I do. And now, like, energy doesn't lie and the veil's so much thinner. We can feel it. And so really focusing on how we're walking our talk first. I love that. Thank you so much. My second to final topic is letting go, and really about walking this talk, a year of letting go of this chrysalis stage. Ain't easy. There's grief, there's loss, there's all of the things. There's also so much beauty and revelation. If you could say one thing that's enabled you, like time and time again, to be able just to let go and release, what would that be? Maybe it's a word, maybe it's a word.
This is it's a tough one to boil down to one word, because
Or if, however works for you as well. Maybe it's a statement or a way of,
just, I guess it's just coming back to that place again of trust, time and time again, because the more that we can trust, it can anchor us into the knowing of the need to let go. And just remembering that, there's I think I might have said this earlier maybe, but there's no transformation and growth without letting go. And it's like we can't bring in more if we're holding on. So the more that we can let go, the more that we can just open to receive. And I think, not that it's all about receiving, but it's just this cycle, isn't it? It's just a cycle of, it's like the breath. You breathe in, you're receiving, you breathe out, you're letting go. It's just anchoring in with the breath.
Beautiful. Yes, because that is what gets you through those moments, right? Like when it gets to that point of like, because sometimes it's like terror, it's like, how do I let go of this? I don't know how. Like, I actually don't know how to let go of this. I know I need to. And the breath is the way through that. Yeah, thank you so much. And around that, this trust and that real beautiful visual cue that you gave for those that are just listening on the podcast of like, how do I receive it or create space if my hands are clenched and I'm holding on and I'm closed? You know, I need to open up my palms. I need to open up the space of my body and being to allow in the new. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I want to add on what just came through is like this trust as well, like of what's ahead, that there's always something coming. There's life abhors a vacuum. So you're not just going to be left in that space, that vacuum forever. You know, the space you're creating, like the breath, there'll be an inhale again. Yeah. The ebb is followed by the flow, and understanding those cycles. And this leads me on to my very last question, which is relationship. We're in relationship with everything, but our primary relationship is relationship with love, with spirit, with God, whichever word feels right for you. And how has this relationship for you developed over the last year?
It's developed immensely, without allowing myself to let go and to receive love and support. I wouldn't be having the same conversation with you now.
Mm.
So it's been huge, and just my allowing myself the willingness and motivation to be committed to love and committed to this path and this journey and this phase and to everything. That commitment has helped me to strengthen my relationship to that love. And it's been an immense journey and a really, really important one and super profound. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. And how, very, very last bit of it is how does that show up now? That space of that connection as it deepens, as it evolves. Yeah, how would you encapsulate that? I know for me, it's almost like an energy of devotion. It can be an energy of real support, like all the things I search for externally. It's like, oh, that can come vertically, that can come through the portal of my heart from love. Are there any final words you wish to say about that?
Just that it's important to carve out that space, you know, the silence sometimes, and in being able to receive that and to strengthen that knowing and that trust. I keep using the word trust today. It's a strong word. It just means so much to me. It has been so pivotal in this whole journey. But yeah, definitely just carving out. It's deepened for me by carving out that space and time and committing to that, you know, that sort of devotion. And yeah, that's it really.
That's all we need. That is all we need. Some space, some silence. So much comes from it. It sounds nuts until you start to experience it, but yeah, and it changes the quality of everything else. Like, one thing that always comes to my mind, like, we're 99.9999% space. So if that's the case, like, why can't we rest in space? Like, we are it. And also that's where the consciousness is. That's where, yeah. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. I want to say thank you so much for your time today, for sharing so openly, authentically, vulnerably about your journey this last year. What a year it's been. I'm so excited for what's coming as well, for you, for us, for everyone. And keep shining your light and being the magnificent being you are and the beautiful soul that you are and wonderful friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for having me. It's been beautiful. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks, honey. Bye.